All right, so algebra, this is for you. Lesson 2.3, solving inequalities using multiplication and division. This is going to be very similar to what you were doing with addition and subtraction. There's just one tiny little rule that we're going to go through that is different. So there's no new vocab words that you don't have to write on this. The key with this, the one big thing you need to take away, is if you multiply or divide by a negative, it's going to flip the sign, the less than or greater than sign. Anytime you move a negative across that middle of the less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, it's going to flip that sign. So let's do a few examples well, here's the core concept. So you're going to write this in your journals. Again, you can either choose to write the words and numbers or just the algebra part. You may choose. But if you look here, we have a negative 6 is less than 8. If I multiply 2 on both sides, is the answer still true? I have negative 12 is less than 16. Yes, that would still be true because negative is way less than 16. If I have a 6 and a negative 8, and I divide both sides by a 2, then I get 3 is greater than negative 4. This is also still true because 3 would be greater than negative 4. And these properties will also work for if you have greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. So that doesn't change it. So example 1, write this in your journals. So we're going to solve x over 8 is greater than negative 5. And then also we'll do b, which is negative 24 is greater than or equal to 3x. So let's start with a. So first thing, write down a. Now you're going to see here we have x over 8. What kind of math is that? Yes, I'm waiting till you answer. Division. It is division. So the opposite of division is to multiply. Very good. I'm assuming you all said multiply. So we have to multiply 8 to both sides. So that cancels out everything on the left. On the right-hand side, we have 8 times a negative 5, which would be negative 40. And then you just bring down the x and the sign. Now, the number we moved across the middle is the 8. So it was a positive number, so the sign doesn't change. It's all the same. So x will have to be greater than negative 40. That would be the solution. So let's look at b. Oh, wait, we got to graph it first. Sorry. Graph each solution. Read the instructions. So again, where are we graphing this at? Negative 40. Good. Is it open or closed circle? Open. Very good. And which way are we shading? To the right, because x is greater than. Excellent. All right, so for b, we have negative 24 is greater than or equal to 3x. So how do we get x by itself? So since the 3 is next to it, it means multiply, so we are going to divide. So divide both sides by positive 3. Positives don't change anything, so we're going to divide. That cancels out on the right. On the left, we have negative 24 divided by 3, which would give you a negative 8. So negative 8 is greater than or equal to x. You could also just flip that completely around and say x is less than or equal to negative 8. They mean the same thing here. So to graph that, we're going to do on what number? Negative 8, open or closed circle? Closed because it's equal to. And which way are we shading? To the left because it is less than. Very good. All right, so now you're going to go and do your try-its, monitoring progress, numbers 1 through 4. You can pause the video here until they get all of those done, or until you start feeling like it's taking too long, and then restart to do the next example. All right, hopefully you guys all got numbers 1 through 4 done. So now let's talk about multiplying or dividing by a negative number. This is where the change happens. So when you are multiplying or dividing by a negative number, the sign has to flip which way it's facing. For instance, if I have a negative 6 is less than 8 and I multiply both sides by a negative 2, that's going to flip your sign. So that's going to be 6 times 2. Negative times a negative is a positive, so that's what gives you 12. And then on this side, negative 2 times 8 will give you the negative 16. So in this case, 12 is greater than negative 16, which is true. Same thing when you're dividing. If I have 6 is greater than negative 8, if I all of a sudden divide by a negative 2 on both sides, my sign is going to flip. So multiplying by a negative, you flip. Dividing by a negative, you flip. So I come out with negative 3 is less than 4, which is true. It'll make more sense in the examples. This is a little wishy-washy. So let's look at example 2. Write this in your journals. I'm going to wait for my face to catch up. All right. So we're going to solve each inequality and then graph it. So if you're looking at this A equation, first thing you need to do is write it down. Okay. The y above the negative 3 means what kind of math? Division. So to move the negative 3, we need to do the opposite of division, which is multiplication. So we're going to multiply both sides times negative 3. So the minute you multiply both sides times that negative to move it across, you need to go ahead and flip the middle sign. So instead of less than, it changes to greater than. This will catch you up on your test. Make sure you're paying attention to this. So now we do negative 3 times 2, which is negative 6. And it cancels on the other side, so you're left with just the y. So you have negative 6 is greater than y, or you can just flop that around, which doesn't change anything. Y is less than negative 6. That's the same answer. It's like reading it right to left. All right, hopefully that makes sense. So now let's look at B. Oh, I lied. We're going to graph. So we're graphing on what number? Negative 6. Is it open or closed? Open, because it's just less than. And which way are we shading? To the left. Very good. All right, so now let's look at B. So first thing is to write it down. Negative 7y is less than or equal to negative 35. We're solving for y, so we're trying to get everything away from the y. So what do we do when you have a number next to a letter? It means multiplication. So what are we going to do? Division. So we're going to divide by negative 7. The minute you divide by a negative number, you got to switch the sign. So you notice here that this sign was a less than or equal to. Now it needs to be greater than or equal to. So this cancels on the left. What is a negative divided by a negative? Should be a positive. 35 divided by 7, 5. So y is greater than or equal to 5. So now we need to graph it. So draw your number line. The circle goes on what number? 5. Is it open or closed? Closed because of the equal. And are we shading to the left or the right? To the right, because y is greater than. Excellent. All right. Now we're going to go do monitoring progress numbers 5 through 10. So you can pause the video here and work on numbers 5 through 10. If you are starting to run out of time, then you need to just pause what you're working on and come back and listen to the next example. But for now, pause it. All right, hopefully you finished through number 10. If not, just don't forget to go back and do it. All right, let's do example 3. It's our last example. All right, you earn $9.50 per hour at your summer job. We're going to write and solve an inequality that represents the number of hours you need to work to buy a digital camera that costs $247. All right, so how much do we need to save? That's the first thing we need to figure out. Okay, we need to save $247. How much are we getting paid? $9.50 per hour, right? So the per hour is what we don't know. So that's going to be our variable. So that's going to be our x. And you need to work equal to or more than to make that 247, correct? So let's plug this in. Hourly wage is $9.50. So you can just do 9.5. That's the same. Hours worked, we don't know. So you put in a variable. They used n. You can use x, whatever variable you want. they need to work this many hours more than or equal to the cost of the camera, which is $247. Now, do we have an inequality that we can solve for n? Yes. So since we have 9.5 times n, this is multiplication, so we're going to do what to move it? Division. So divide both sides by 9.5. It cancels on the left. You should just have n is greater than or equal to whatever 247 divided by 9.5, which is 26. Now this is a word problem, so you need to label it. So what is 26 in reference to? N represented the number of hours worked. So 26 should be 26 or more hours. So if you have payroll deductions, such as Social Security taxes, you need to work more than the 26 hours. But if you work at least 26 hours, you should have more than $247. You don't have to do the estimation. All right, so then your last part is to do numbers 11 and 12, and that would be the last of your assignment. Hope you have a great day.